Hey, friends! I'm Jesse Fisco.
And I'm Ambry Fisco.
As founders of several successful businesses, we've experienced absolute joy and satisfaction working together to build our empire.
Our journey started off as a small business idea and has launched into a multi-million-dollar portfolio. It would have never been possible had Jesse and I not understood the key principles of making it all work together. But it has not been easy.
We found ourselves in the trenches trying to balance real life with business life while maintaining our strong commitment to creating an amazing marriage.
And we've emerged in a beautiful way together. This podcast was created to help you do what we've done, build an amazing marriage together while maintaining balance between life and business.
So here we are. You're listening to the Matrimonial Merger, a couple's guide to balancing life and business.
Let's get started.
What is up? Oh my gosh, it's the Matrimonial Merger. Jesse and Ambry here. How are you?
Me?
You?
I'm good. How are you?
So good. I am level 10 like always.
Always level 10.
Always when we record these podcasts because you guys, this is like our purpose. I love this. I love talking to you. And you too, Ambry.
Okay, so today we're super excited to talk to you guys about, I'll share with you the name of the episode. You've already seen that if you clicked on it, but it is Get Out of Bed. Now, it's going to take a minute for you to realize why we named this episode that, but there's your hook. Get out of bed.
Trey would say, no.
Yes, that's exactly what Trey would say. Our little 1-year-old, almost 2-year-old. Oh, he loves that word.
He would say it too, be like, no.
That's exactly how he says it.
Do your best, Trey, real quick, so everyone knows.
No.
No.
All right.
So you're going to get a lot of that in this episode.
We're the only ones that think we're funny right now.
Yeah.
It's too late. Okay.
Well, get out of bed, huh?
Yes, get out of bed. Cool. So one of our listeners was like, Ambry, Jesse, I feel like I'm stuck in a false sense of security. I have a decent paying job, can afford to provide for what my family needs and wants. However, I feel like I could be making more money and experiencing more if I wasn't worried about leaving my job. Any advice? So this person is stuck between like feeling secure at their job, but like realizing that they feel that desire and that potential that they have. It's like, how do you get past that? And there was another question that came in that was similar, that was like, hey, I feel like I'm afraid of success. How can I overcome that? So today we're going to talk about overcoming the fear of success, which probably sounds weird, but you just wait. It's a real thing, and you probably experience it. And then also, like how to not be afraid of going for your potential and just going for it. Investing in yourself. Yes.
Right? And saying, I can do it. These questions, like when I got them, I was just like extremely excited to answer these because I feel like this is a lot of people, right? And a lot of people get worried and they go into an analysis paralysis state of mind. They have a great idea and then all of a sudden they just lose it. Yeah. And they're like, no, we can't do that because there's this problem, this problem, and this problem.
Yep.
And it's bad. But, you know, the problem for these listeners here, and we're going to go back to the initial question, but the problem isn't that you will not make money doing something different. Money is easy to make, right? I mean, you can go get a job anywhere and make money. Money is extremely liquid and available. The real problem is your limiting belief that keeps you from trying.
For sure.
I mean, like, I talked to someone this week. We had someone that we were mentoring and that would hang out with us, and there was a lot of times where it was like, oh, "Cool, like, would you like to do this? Yeah, awesome. Can you make money? Yeah, awesome." And then there was well, I just don't know, right? There was just this like, oh, I feel a little like I just need to break through. I just don't know how, and there was a lot of analysis into that idea when realistically we'd already determined, well, yeah, you can make money, right?
Yeah. And like we talked about too, like job security, like is kind of like, is it a thing? Like, there's so many people being laid off right now and like things going on, and, they felt very secure in their job and that, that was a secure income. Well, all of a sudden you get laid off or something happens with your employer, then it's like, well, that really actually wasn't secure income at all or a secure job at all. So
100%.
like, I think that's one thing to remember is like, nothing is guaranteed. Like even at like a normal 8 to 5, whatever job where you are given a contract and a salary and all of that, like that doesn't necessarily mean anything. That doesn't mean that you're going to like be paid for the next 3 years just because you told them you would, give your life to them for the next 3 years.
I'm so excited to drop this truth bomb right now. Okay. I'm over here like jumping out of my chair.
You do this every episode where you just like get all excited and you're like, I have something to say.
Well, nothing's guaranteed unless you're guaranteeing it, right?
Yeah.
Nothing, like your job's not guaranteed. So why don't you guarantee your own job?
Yeah.
Why don't you become so resourceful that it's like, sure, everyone else is going through layoffs, but my job's guaranteed.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you can like put that confidence in yourself and know that like no matter what, you're gonna figure it out and you're gonna get through that. But, anyways,
I don't know. Like you go back, and this is just me now going like off on a wild tangent, but like the caveman like era. I mean, they had to succeed. It was on them. Mm-hmm. It wasn't on, and it was on their tribe. Yeah. But what happens if dad doesn't bring home food?
Right.
No one eats. Right?
They couldn't just run to the store.
Right. They couldn't just run to the store or go to their boss and say, hey, boss, can I get a raise? And then go to the store. No, like it was 100% on them. It's always been that way. But corporations and other jobs have made it a lot easier for us to go get a job and get consistency. Right.
Yeah. And I think like the root and the bottom line of that is like, that is the norm. Like that is what we see. That's what we kind of grow up in. Like,
it's the bed.
It's the bed. Get out of the bed.
Get out of the bed. There you go.
There's the first name drop of the podcast episode. Yeah. So yeah, like get out of that. Like we at some point in our life, we have a lot of thought or feeling to change our outlook on certain things. So like we just talked about job security. Like at some point in our life, we're told, get a job, get a degree, work your way up the chain and, get a good paying job, do better, work harder. There's like a set path and process to get you where you needed to be in life. And like emphasis on like the work harder, like you constantly have to work harder. Eventually you'll retire, but put in more hours. Maybe you'll get a raise. Yeah, the grind. Put in more hours. Maybe you'll get a raise, work some overtime. Like you need the money. You're probably taught at an early age that this is the way to get what your parents had. Like this is how you get where they are in life, and that's where you want to be. So naturally, it makes sense to repeat what they did, and then you'd have like a sure outcome, right? Like that's kind of the program that we receive, and without even realizing it, just like we talked about, which episode was it? The No More Family Drama episode, where we talked about like, these programs that are installed into our minds without us even realizing it at a young age. And so now it's time to like reprogram and say, actually, this path is not going to get me what I want. But I think all of us do this. Like, it's not necessarily wrong, right? Like, this works for a lot of people and creates a wonderful, fulfilling life for a lot of people. Not saying you can't have a fulfilled life that way and following in that process. However, for some people, the cycle does not give them what they truly want. And I'm going to put this out there. Chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, that's probably you.
Yeah.
Like you're looking for a way to like break through and a way to put that trust and confidence in yourself and go for what you want and fulfill the potential that you have, but you're sitting there waiting and afraid.
Some of you might even start like referring to like, I have an average life or a mediocre life right now. Right. Like maybe not all, but it might come down to like, oh man, I just feel so average and I'm tired of being average. I'm tired of barely having like a certain amount of money every single month. And I want to go to Bora Bora or I want to go these amazing places, but my life is so average.
Stuck in bed.
You're stuck in
Literally,
bed.
like, and what's fulfilling about that? Like, if that's not what you want, and if you know you have so much potential, but you're stuck in bed, like, I mean, what could be worse? Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and let's break down the bed real fast. The bread, the bed represents comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
The bed is, oh man, it is so comfortable. I don't want to get out. I just love it. And then you realize, man, this bed is actually doing me dirty because the longer I stay in bed, the more I want to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
We've all been there on a Saturday morning where you sleep in and you're laying there, and then finally you're like, all right, I just got to get out. I got to get up and get out of this thing, right? You don't stay in there all day. Eventually you have to get up to do something, whether it's to use a restroom, get some food. There's some motivation there.
Yeah.
But this is kind of where some of you guys are sitting right now is you feel, going back to the listener's question, you feel like you're stuck. You feel like you're limited, and it's because you're still in the bed.
Yeah.
Right? You haven't gotten out and tried something different.
Yeah.
And
like, yeah, you haven't tried something different. You're limiting your potential. And the other question, going back to like being afraid of success, like what makes you afraid of success?
I think what makes you afraid of success is past experiences. Like we talk about those limiting beliefs, right? Like, okay, maybe... Like, I guess for me, really quick thinking, like at 11 years old, I broke my ankle playing basketball. Love basketball. Okay. And I was really, really good at 11. Long story short, I broke my ankle. I was put on antibiotics. And antibiotics, for those that don't know, they can help you put on weight. Like, if you need to put on a lot of weight, there you go.
They're awful.
They can help you gain weight. So in about 2 months of being in a cast, I put on 40 pounds as an 11-year-old. So got really, really chubby, got really, really, really out of shape, lost my position of starting point guard, and then ultimately got kicked off the team because I was just out of shape, right? So that limiting belief right there was installed. Like, you're fat, right? Like, and that was something that has taken years for me to get over. But ultimately, something like that, where you've had I'm at the top of my game, and then you get knocked down a little bit, that could cause a bit of a fear of success because, I don't want to get knocked down again.
Yeah. You're going to have to go out of your comfort zone to get that success. And so I feel like maybe it's not necessarily that you're afraid of the success itself. Mm-hmm. Maybe you haven't decided that you deserve it yet. Yeah. But you're not necessarily afraid of that because deep down that's what you want. But you're afraid of getting out of your comfort zone, getting out of bed to get there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So
I mean, just this podcast alone, like every time we are getting ready to film, it's kind of that like, oh, we're so excited, but then we're so nervous. But over time, it gets better. And the feedback, like having you guys reach out to us and ask questions, is like, yeah. This is motivating.
Oh man, I get nervous to put myself out here every single time.
Right. But
it's like, but every time it's like, okay, like we've committed to this. We want this. We know this is going to propel us towards additional goals that we have. And so here we are, like, putting in the effort and putting in the work and enjoying it. And like, I would be lying if I said I feel 100% comfortable every time we hook up these mics and put the headphones on. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, oh, am I going to mess up and say the wrong thing, or am I going to say bread instead of bed, right?
Probably, but that's okay. Okay. Anyways, man, we are really, really, really good at tangents.
Yeah.
And like just Hey, so let's talk. What?
I was going to say we could talk about anything.
I know.
That's what makes it so much fun.
All right, so let's talk about what it looks like. We've touched on this a little bit already, but what does it look like when your actions and mindset are not aligned with what you truly want? We've covered this, like, I feel like across a lot of our episodes where it's just like you're not happy. Like we talked about this just a few minutes ago. Like you know what you want, or maybe you don't know what you want, but like you have more potential. And so you're just kind of sitting, like you're in bed, you're in your comfort zone. You're not happy. You're not fulfilled. You're not
motivated.
You're
right?
unmotivated. You just feel stuck.
Yep. And I'm going to share like something that's happened literally in the last week. This is for you guys that know, Ambry and I run a couple of businesses, and one of our businesses, we have another partner, and him and his wife are phenomenal people. Absolutely love working with them. In fact, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. And so that's tip number one: surround yourself with people that lift
Expand your network.
Yeah, expand your network, that lift and inspire. But what it came down to is we haven't had a closing on one of this business. We haven't had a sale in 3 months. And before that, we were making great money. I mean, 1 month literally posting about $250,000 in business revenue, like really, really good revenue for this business that had just been started about 6 months prior. All of a sudden, we go from this to nothing. And 3 months. And this week, we're sitting there talking and going, what is wrong? Like, we started digging deep and taking the accountability, using the tips that we're teaching you guys. And we were able to hit it on the head, like taking full accountability. We realized what is wrong is when we were invested, when we started this up, we were all in. Mm-hmm. And some of our other businesses that we were running and their businesses kind of took a nosedive a little bit. And like, you can go look at our real estate profit loss statement, and you can see from the time we started the business to now, like you could see almost like a roller coaster ride where there wasn't a lot of effort in our real estate.
The focus had like shifted a little bit.
Right. And then it went over to this other company, and this other company's like high peak, and so it was like, all right, now we've got to balance these things. But ultimately, like, it came back down to we're not aligned.
Yeah.
Right. He has his businesses that he runs. We have our businesses that we run. And this business had gotten neglected. The one that we came together on got neglected, and we both put in maybe 5 hours a week for a startup business. And that's not going to pay the bills. And then we hired a lot of people hoping that they'd pick up the slack. And this was a big learning experience for us because they weren't getting the direction from us at the leadership point of view. And we were just expecting people to be invested.
Yeah.
Right. But the hard part is like, that was our mirror, right? Like, we weren't invested here. And because we weren't invested, our crew that worked for us, our employees, were not as invested because they were seeing us not be as invested. So now all of a sudden we have to do a whole revamp of our company. And unfortunately, we had to lay off some people because of our mistake. And that was a hard conversation to have too. But ultimately, our goals of what we had as a company and our actions were misaligned. And the feedback was real, you guys. Like, going from making great money to, yes, this is an awesome, successful business, down to like, what the heck is wrong? That is an emotional roller coaster I don't want any of you guys to be on. Yeah. Like, try to avoid it. But that was the problem.
So you've got to have clarity of like...
Absolutely.
And you got to go for it. Like, you have to be all in, and you have to recognize like the time and effort and not just expect that like it's going to happen on its own. Like, I do think that there's something to be said about like, what is it? People say work smarter, not harder. Like, I think that is real, but you can't expect to just quit your job and like do nothing and that it's just going to happen. Like, you've got to have the vision. You've got to have the mindset. You have to have your actions aligned with that mindset so that you can, it's action. It's all about your action. And
it's crazy too. Like, to go back to the listener, he kind of opened up a little bit more, but do you think that you're effectively being a good employee if you have your mind set on another thing you want to do? So like, he's working his job, but then he has this vision, this dream of something else. So already you can start to see the misalignment. Do you think that his performance at work is going to be up to par?
Right.
Probably not. Right. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying he's a lousy worker or anything like that. Just saying that his focus is more...
You're not doing what you want.
You're not doing what you want, so how could you be the best? Yeah. Right? Imagine like cleaning out a porta potty every single day, and you're like, I'm better than this. I'm higher than this, and I know it. And yet every time you open up that porta potty and it smells like absolute garbage, you're just cleaning it and going back. Right? So well, I just want to like really get my point across here.
I know. Like, so we had a conversation with someone who's close to us someone who is close to us.
It's 9:00 at night. Like, yeah.
That's late for me. Someone who's close to us who unfortunately has been laid off and is now working on designing like what he wants and what his next steps will be. And Jesse was telling me about a conversation he had with him where it was like, you kind of knew you weren't doing what you wanted to do. And you're already like in the back of your mind, like thinking about what you actually wish you were doing and could be doing. And like, long story short, okay, you get laid off. So like you laid yourself off. Like you created that because you were like, you're designing something else in your mind. So like now your universe or like your external reality is going like, okay, well, let's do it. Like, why are we sitting around waiting?
Yeah,
so,
it's like,
anyways, I thought that was kind of funny.
Since
like,
you're not taking the
off.
action to quit this job, we're just going to help you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you guys, your internal thoughts and the things you think inside your brain will come back to you as a mirror. Mm-hmm. So what you're thinking inside, imagine looking in the mirror and seeing your reflection. Your internal thoughts
your reality.
Is your external world. Right? And so if you're thinking, in this guy's case, I want to go to law school and I'm really just doing this job temporary and this is just a temporary means to get to where I want to be because of all these other reasons.
Or whatever.
Well, ultimately, your universe is, I don't want this job. I want to go to law school in this guy's case. And so as harsh as I am with words sometimes, it's just like, well, don't you think you laid yourself off then because you're misaligned?
Yeah.
But it was also like one of those, whoa,
That's how you take feedback though. Like like if someone said that to you, you'd be like, oh, okay. Like, and
I'd
it
probably
would
hug
motivate
them and say, yeah, you're right.
It would motivate you a lot, but
I'd probably tell them to shut up too. Like, shut up. That was so stupid. And I'd be like, he's right. So, or she.
Oh man.
But,
okay. So I think like right now, I want you to take a step back and think of a time when you really went for it. No matter how big or small it is, you went for it. And where are you now because of that? What you did, what you went for at that time. Sometimes we get caught up in the fear of the outcomes and we forget that like we already know how to do this. We know how to take the big steps. We just let those programs get in the way and we forget to trust ourselves and our abilities. So like, maybe it was when you decided to propose to your spouse, or maybe it was a big leap in a job that you've taken in the past, or I don't know. There could be so many different examples, but think of a time when you really like went for it. And I had this kind of epiphany last night where it's like where I am right now was literally my dream life like 5-6 years ago. Like right now, I'm living what my dream was 5 to 6 years ago. And like, that was big for me to realize like, okay, so like those decisions that we made 5-6 years ago seemed really scary and risky, but fast forward 5 years, 10 years, whatever, like don't forget to look back and be proud of yourself and recognize when you did take big leaps and see how they changed your future. And I really loved like realizing that last night because like Jesse and I have a lot of goals and ambitions and things. And sometimes it seems like, a little bit over our heads or like, this is going to take us 30 years or whatever. Like it just seems a bit out of reach sometimes, even though I think that the things that we desire and the things that we want to do are very realistic and attainable. Like sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, like it seems scary what we're going to have to do and risk to get there. But when I think about 5 years ago, sitting and making decisions like Jesse quitting his job, me quitting my job, like some of the big scary decisions that we took, like because of that, I'm now living my dream life back then. So that makes me excited to think like, what are we doing now that is creating our dream life that we're going to be living in 5 years from now or whatever. So think about a time when you like went for it and what did that do for you? Like, can you see now the result of doing something that seemed scary at the time?
Yeah, totally. And I think of like looking back 5 years, going from like, making a decent living to now having things completely different. Like had someone told me that we would have bought a McLaren, like, or we would have been able to have quite a bit of real estate in our portfolio, or that at one point we were living like for $300 a month and owned like what was it? About $700,000 worth of real estate debt. Like, but we were living on that for $300 a month.
Yeah.
If you would have told me that, I would have been like, whoa, I want to meet this guy, right? And I want to meet this version of Ambry and I.
Yeah.
But now looking at it, it becomes reality. And now that the reality's sunk in, it's like, whoa, maybe that Bugatti that we joke about is not that far out of reach because we've accomplished so much.
And like, okay, just to create like a real example, like some of you know us, a lot of you probably don't, but like, you know, we run several businesses now. Like a lot of people would probably say we're pretty successful. Like for us, we're just getting started, but like, you know, the sky's not the limit, right? Like, but, like we bought a McLaren last year. Like what the heck? Like I would have never guessed that would happen 5 years ago, but like, let's rewind 5 to 6 years ago. Let's say 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago, we're pregnant with our little girl, our first baby. And Jesse and I are both working like fairly traditional jobs. We'd always been interested in real estate and kind of just like invested personally. But like, we were like, I think this is what we want to do. And I was kind of looking forward to like, what am I going to do when this baby's born? Like, I know I'm not going to want to be working 8 to 5. I know that's going to, like, for me, it wasn't an option. I didn't want to do that. And so I ended up studying for my real estate license while I was on maternity leave. And then it was like, okay, well, now what? Like, I kind of still had one foot in the door at my previous job, like working part-time for them from home. And just that, to me, that felt like a sense of security. And then like fast forward, we got really, really busy and it was like, all right, well, something has to happen. Like, and like to spare so many details, basically, like we both decided that's it. Like I quit my job shortly after Jesse quit his job, and you know, you were making pretty good money at the time. Like, but for me, it was like, I didn't know exactly what the next 5 years were going to look like, but I knew what I wanted, and what I wanted was not to be working, and I wanted to be home taking care of our daughter, but also being able to, you know, feel fulfilled in the sense of like building something and working and doing something different, doing something outside of the home. And so like real estate was the perfect solution at the time.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember the day that like I came home and you were just emotionally drained. You were like, I can't be a mom and I can't like do this job. And you were doing very well with real estate on your own. And I just remember within 10 hours, like from the time I got home to the time I went back to work the next day, I was in the office telling my boss I'm out.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, like, that was my why. Like, coming home, seeing my wife just sad and, like, defeated in a way. And I was like, I can grow up. Like, I can man up and take control. I can get out of bed right now. Yeah. And that's when it was just like, there's my why. Yeah. I didn't have a goal. I didn't have a purpose or a reason other than that. But that's what propelled me to do it. And there is, as we'll talk more on other episodes, there is a lot of power in making a decision very quickly. Yeah. And that decision has now propelled us to an area where, like, we're able to record a podcast. And it's so much fun, no, right?
Great. Like, and I think, like, really quick to note, like, there will be times, probably more than one time in your business and building something where, like, you hit that crossroads of, like, okay, I'm either all in or I'm not. Like, we're either going to go big or we're not. Like, right. What are we going to do? And I'm so grateful that we took that risk back then, because going along with like yesterday when I kind of had this epitome, like we're sitting there, just talking and laughing with our kids and having a good time. And, you know, then there's crying and it's stressful, but like ultimately, like we're sitting there and we're, you know, in our living room, in our beautiful house.
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm sitting there going like, oh my gosh, like if I could have told Ambry 5 years ago what this day, this moment was going to look like it makes me kind of emotional because I'm like, she would have been like, no way, like I can do that. Like I can feel that. I can achieve that level of like happiness and joy. And like, I mean, I just couldn't help but like take a step back and go like, holy cow. Yeah. Like, and that's only 5 years. Like, I know 5 years feels like a long time sometimes, but I'm like, holy cow, like the last 5 years have flown. And what we did just 5 years ago put us to this point where we are now. And that to me is so exciting and motivating. But
it is.
But yeah, it's real. And like those emotions that came to me yesterday of just like, I am here now because of that terrifying decision. Right. And honestly, I was terrified at the time. Like it didn't feel easy or secure at all. Right. But we were like, if we're doing this, we're doing this and we're going all in. So,
and the great news is it's something you want and all the puzzles of the pieces of the puzzles fall in place. Yeah. Right.
You'll find the resources.
Don't worry about insurance. Insurance will come. Don't worry about getting your LLC set up right away. You can do that later. All of these pieces happen. And that's going to lead me to the next spot of this podcast, which is I want to ask you guys a question. You have followed the advice of someone else in your life, right? Your parents. And you follow their advice and you've noticed that there are certain things that you do that are very similar to your parents. However, if you only follow their advice, you're only going to get to where they're at, right? So my question is if you follow...
And you have trust in that. Like, right. You're like, you feel like like if I take these steps and I follow their process, that's where I'm going to get. Like, right. There's that sense of security in that.
You know that if your dad's a police officer and you go through the academy and you do exactly what your dad told you, you will be a police officer and you will have what your dad has. Plain and simple, right? So let me ask you, if you follow the advice of someone else who is where you want to be right now, do you think that you could get there as well?
Boom.
Right?
Boom. I love that.
I do too. That is why Ambry and I have spent over $100,000 in coaching this year. That is why we are trying to scale up, and all of a sudden those that follow us on Facebook or Instagram, boom, new business, oh, new investment, because we are following the footsteps of other people that are successful. This philosophy applies.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing.
And I think it's interesting because that makes so much sense. Right? Like it's like, okay, like the example you brought up, like your dad's a police officer, you know how to get to that point. Like if that's what you want, you've got a clear path.
And it's easier because you have the clear path.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So if there's someone who's doing what you want to do or has kind of paved a path, like why wouldn't you have the same confidence in following that and getting there?
Yeah.
Same, like Jesse said, same philosophy applies. What's interesting is that because it's not a familiar path or concept or philosophy, it just seems more daunting or out there. It's not within your comfort zone at all, but that's a beautiful thing. Like we've all heard the cliche term that people have been saying forever and ever, that life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Like, yeah, okay. But really, like that is true.
Yeah.
You literally cannot reach hyper growth within your comfort zone or in your bed, like we've been calling it today. Like you can't. So.
I don't care how soft and comfortable the pillows and the down blanket is. You got to get out.
They're going to be better.
You guys, I'm a huge sports person, and I know Ambry tolerates the sports and knows a lot because I talk about it a lot. It's my hobby. But you go look at sports, and there are a lot of children of former sports or former athletes in that league. And it is easier for them. And in some cases, they are better than their parents. In other cases, they're not as well because their parents were Hall of Famers, but they're in the league, right? And it's because they had that example.
That is so
They
true.
had that mentor. And it's the same thing with you guys. If you want to get to where you want to be, if it's, I want to go to law school, why aren't you hanging out with people going to law school? If it's, I want to have this business, why aren't you hanging out with people that are in that business? Go freaking show up, knock on the door of the business and say, I don't know you, you don't know me, but I want to shadow for a week and I'm going to work for free.
Yeah.
Show me the ropes.
Surround yourself with mentors and believe that, like, there's no reason why you can't do that too. Like, and I think that's the biggest thing is, like, sometimes that because, once again, because of our programs, like, we think, like, oh, like, that's just not for me, or I'm not, we fill ourselves with doubts of, like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this, I'm not that.
Yeah.
But you are. And even if there's an area where you may legitimately be lacking, you will find the resources and you will do it. It does not matter. Like, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to get there wherever that is. Like, you have what it takes. The resources are available. Once you begin to walk that path and go for it, you'll be amazed at the way the resources show up and present themselves. Like, it's magical.
And I'm going to put this here. There is no greater investment than in yourself.
Yeah.
There, like, sure, you can say, oh, well, I invested in this crypto or this stock, right? And I made it big.
Because that's what you wanted, though. So it kind of, same
right.
thing.
But you're investing in yourself. You're investing in your knowledge. You're investing in your education.
I see
so
what you're saying.
If you are there, like I said, if you just show up to a random business and talk to the owner and say, I'm just going to shadow you and I'm going to work for free, they're not going to say no. They may have you sign some, like, liability waivers or something. But, like, I've done that. I've been there many times. Even now, like 5, 6, 7 years into this career, I'm still there. In fact, Ambry and I jumped on a call yesterday or 2 days ago with someone, and we have paid them a substantial amount of money to teach us, right? And those are things that you have to do. You have to be willing to invest in yourself and surround yourself with people that know more than you. You may know more than some other people, and you can be a resource there, but there are always more people that know more than you. So surround them,
there and
find
they
them.
will flow. Like, when you are putting yourself out there and when you are just going for it, like, the opportunities will flow, and the people you meet, like, I mean, it's amazing how it happens. Like, the people that you meet along the way and the resources that flow are not a coincidence.
Right.
It's because you are telling the universe, if you will, like, this is what I'm doing. Like, and, we've talked a lot about your conscious and unconscious mind. Like, once you are going for it and you have a path, like, your unconscious mind is all of a sudden, like, rounding up these resources for you. Like, it's effortless at that point. So,
well, it's crazy. Like, the guy that's been helping us with our podcast, like, we've known him for what? All but 10 weeks?
Yeah. Like,
maybe.
Not very long.
And we're sitting there on the phone and he's asking us for advice, and we're like, dude, you're, like, way above us, like, financially and where we want to be. We want to get where you're at, and you're asking us for advice and
asking our opinion on, like, a business idea, or, like, and we're over here, like, we see you, like,
we see you so high up, but it ended up being like, well, actually, I think you should do this. And he's like, well, let's do lunch. Yeah. Like, I want to talk to you more about this. This is a good idea.
There's so much value that each one of us has. Like, whoever you are listening right now, like, you have value you could provide to us.
So just get out of the bed already.
Like, get out of your bed. But I mean, we could go off on tangent after tangent and example after example, which is why we have next week and the week after that and the week after that, and we, like, really look forward to that, and we appreciate you tuning in again and listening to us ramble on and listening to Jesse get all excited about his analogies, his inevitable analogies.
They're awesome. The IKEA furniture from a couple episodes still sticks.
I'm pretty sure that was the No More Family Drama episode too. I don't know, but anyways, there's usually you'll find some kind of funny analogy from Jesse, but we just appreciate you guys. Want to invite you to leave us a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends, family, fellow entrepreneurs, and help us spread the word. And
send us your questions.
Yeah, please send us your questions. We love that, and that's awesome. If we can build a podcast around a question you ask, we absolutely love that. And thank you for being part of this community, and we look forward to chatting with you next week.
Bye.
See you guys.